Radio Maweja FM. Abonnez-vous maintenant. Radio Maweja FM. Pour rien manquer, abonnez-vous maintenant.
Has been here more than 200 years for my people, the Algonquin people. To learn as well as the contributions that we made to the city, because we lived here. We were born and raised here, and my people are buried here. And Ottawa, Odawa, that is how you say Ottawa, Odawa. And this is a place of trade. It was always a place of trade for her people. We traded with one another as a Anishinaabe people. We traded also with other nations. And now today I stand before you and I trade with you. I trade with you my love and my kindness. You trade with me your love and your kindness. Let's be one and let's show all other cities in Canada and beyond that we are wow. Wow. God bless each and every one of you. Ni buksendam minopomadzuin, ni buksendam zagieduin, ni buksendam ni bakawin. My prayer for each and every one of you and your families is that the Creator will bless you with that good heart, mino ode. Bless you with a good life, mino pomadzwin, and bless you and cherish you with a great gift of life and a great gift of love, Zagi Edwin. I love you all, my brothers and sisters. Always a pleasure to be here with you to celebrate wow, 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 because you are all wow. But I also must apologize to you that Claudette Commanda must leave the building like Elvis as soon as I'm done this, because I told a good friend here earlier, she asked me, oh yes, and that's the other thing. I always appreciate that you have wow, this breakfast in the same month and within the same week and within the day after National Indigenous Peoples Day. So thank you so much. As you celebrate Ottawa, celebrate one another, celebrate Indigenous peoples too as well, because we are one in that great circle that we call the medicine wheel. So again, I must say that I have to depart very soon. I'm so sorry. I don't like doing this. But as I said to my good friend, she asked me, how are you holding up with the whole month of June and yesterday at National Indigenous Peoples Days and so on? Well, I said, here's my new name. I am Claudette. Too busy, no time, Commanda. But I love you all. Take good care. Me wedge. Oh, you didn't have to do that.
It's a sound, right?
Oh, Dominique, you didn't have to do that. Love you guys. I love you guys so much. You're so good. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Elder Commanda, who is the Chancellor of my alma mater. I'm so proud of that. So proud of that, University of Ottawa. And for your moving, beautiful words that set the tone for today's celebration. We want to encourage everyone to amplify messages like hers and all the other messages you're going to hear this morning. So please take a look at your event program for our official hashtags. You see them? Hashtag WOW2026, obviously. And using that hashtag, we invite you to share your favorite moments, quotes, photos on social media. You can also go on Instagram at Ottawa LIP, on Facebook at OLIP-PLIO on LinkedIn, or at OLIP_PLIO on Instagram. And let's make sure that the digital world hears how welcoming Ottawa truly is. We're very grateful to the volunteers. We can have a hand for the volunteers. Yes. Who are helping amplify today's celebration through social media, and also a special shout out to them for their support. So I mentioned that Rogers TV is here capturing this event. We also have Maweja FM over there who are joining us with a live broadcast and helping share these inspiring stories.
Claudette Commanda mentioned that apparently the light was hitting me right in the center of my forehead earlier. And so I like that she takes the time to say on her way out of the building and managing so many things, gives lighting advice as well. So I'm moving over here a little bit. When I was figuring out coming here and I was explaining to my kids that, this was partially a celebration of 200 years, I said, I don't know if I should wear something in particular to sort of indicate the 200 years of Ottawa. And one of my daughters helpfully said, don't worry, you just look old already. And I was like, thank you. Fantastic. Very helpful. The OLIP is not that old, however. 2013 is when the Ottawa Local Immigration Partnership got going. To bring forward, it's my pleasure now to bring forward our official welcoming remark maker, Dominique Denery, chair of OLIP, fluently bilingual trailblazer with over 25 years of experience leading organizations. Please welcome Dominique Denery.
Bonjour. Alors, vous êtes bien réveillés, du bon café à manger, tout ça. C'est vraiment un plaisir d'être ici ce matin et de voir tous ces visages et toute cette belle diversité. Alors, venir après la chancelière Commanda, c'est toujours un peu difficile parce qu'elle a une façon de toucher nos cœurs et de nous rappeler c'est quoi l'appartenance, c'est quoi la communauté à Ottawa, n'est-ce pas? Love and kindness. Okay, I want to begin by welcoming the civic, institutional, community, and sector leaders who are with us this morning. You know who you are, but we're really, really happy that you've joined us. I also want to welcome, I told you in advance, Maxine, that I would welcome Maxine Eiffel, Director General of Settlement and Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. Maxine, thank you for your support, for being with us, for the federal partnership that brought us to life and that continues to make our work possible. And you're here with some colleagues as well. Thank you so much, IRCC. Donc, je veux aussi reconnaître la ville d'Ottawa, les gens de la ville qui sont ici, le leadership de l'ACI, où est-elle là-bas? Les bénévoles et toutes les personnes qui ont contribué à rendre possible la semaine d'accueil à Ottawa. The relationship between OLIP, IRCC, the city, LACI, and many partners is not symbolic, it's practical, it's sustained. It's one of the reasons Ottawa continues to build its capacity as a welcoming city. À titre de présidente du Plio, je suis très heureuse de vous accueillir au lancement de cette semaine, surtout à l'occasion des 200 ans d'Ottawa, beaucoup plus longtemps, évidemment, pour les gens qui nous ont accueillis ici, les Anishinaabe. Mais le fait qu'on veut célébrer cette ville et une histoire, et beaucoup d'histoires, mais une histoire qu'on bâtit en commun. Donc, une ville accueillante, ça ne se proclame pas, ça se pratique. It's not declared, it's practice. Ottawa has been shaped by a generation of people who came here from elsewhere, some by choice, some had very little choice. Many came wanting their children to stand on more solid ground than they had. Cette partie de l'histoire, c'est la mienne. Je suis née en Haïti. Mes parents ont quitté Haïti pendant les années François Duvalier. Saint-Phar, toi, c'est plus tard que tu as quitté, hein, c'est ça? Comme toutes les personnes qui quittent leur pays, on n'a pas simplement changé d'adresse. On a laissé tout un monde derrière nous. They came to Canada with their education, their hopes and their determination, but they also came to a country in 1960, still marked by exclusionary immigration policies and where education and experience earned elsewhere were not easily recognized. It's better, but there's still quite a bit of a ways to go. Ils ont dû s'adapter, ils ont dû reconstruire, ils ont dû recommencer. And when they finally made it, as we sometimes say, they poured everything in the children to the point where we went to every lesson, had to learn many languages, every opportunity they could find, from figure skating to ballet to anything that was available, because they really believed in education and contribution, in integration and dignity, so that we could have what they could not have growing up. Donc, je suis ici grâce à eux, grâce à mes parents. Je voulais quand même rappeler le fait qu'on est ici pour parler de gens qui ont construit cette ville. On oublie parfois que c'est pas simplement des contributions économiques, des gens qui payent, qui font partie de la main-d'œuvre, mais aussi que notre contribution, elle est une contribution de gens qui ont cherché et qui continuent de bâtir cette communauté. So we have helped build this country, and we continue to build this city. So that's something that we need to remind everyone, that Ottawa is also a land of immigration. Today, we also meet at a difficult time. Around the world, people are being displaced by economic, political, climate disasters, and they come here and they try to rebuild their lives. How many of you have rebuilt their lives here in Ottawa or Canada generally? So look around the room, that's a lot of folks. And the cost of living is high. The systems are stretched. Racism is still with us, and public discourse right now is becoming harder, more polarized, and sometimes more openly hostile towards immigrants and refugees. Ça devrait nous préoccuper. Ottawa, on contrôle pas tout d'Ottawa, but we do control the response when people come here. So we control whether we meet them with suspicion or dignity. We control whether there's pathways or not, or barriers. Nous contrôlons si l'accueil est un mot ou il devient quelque chose que les personnes peuvent réellement ressentir dans leur vie quotidienne. Est-ce que je me sens chez moi ici à Ottawa? So that's where OLIP comes in. OLIP is a collective infrastructure for practicing welcome. Le partenariat local rassemble des personnes et des organismes qui comprennent que l'intégration, c'est pas seulement la responsabilité du secteur de l'établissement, mais que c'est aussi ceux qui connectent à, I'll go back to English here, connecting to housing, work, education, health, public institution, community life. So it's organized. It's a city that's organized so that people can build their life here. So at the heart is our partnership council. There's members of the council here today. Donc ça, c'est plus de 80 organismes membres qui offrent l'orientation stratégique et le leadership collectif qui permettent à OLIP d'avancer. To the members of the partnership council, thank you. We couldn't do this work without you. And also to the member of the OLIP Secretariat, they made this all possible. I hope you'll spend a few minutes recognizing Magdalene Khman. Maxwell, where are you? Are you hiding? And the Secretariat. In November 2025, we welcomed Magdalene as Director General of OLIP. Magdalene brings deep experience, strong community roots, and a clear commitment to collaborative leadership. We're very fortunate, and she's a passionate leader. We're very fortunate to have her guiding this next chapter. Thank you, Magdalene. So we have the Partnership Council, the sector tables. How many people here are part of the Partnership Council or the sector tables for OLIP? Quite a few, right? Hi. And all of those who have contributed to make this, to make welcoming more concrete. So I'll finish on Welcome Ottawa Week. I'm not going to steal the thunder from Sarah and Alan, but just to say that WOW is where the work becomes visible and human. It's where you can meet over the next 2 weeks. I was telling some people here, you can meet, and on the radio there, that there's 60 events that will happen across the city over the next 2 weeks, and it's an opportunity to listen, to meet people, to know Ottawa differently through the eyes of someone else, because belonging is built through relationships, not just slogans. And then in a moment, we'll be hearing from you, Deborah, my wonderful co-chair right here, and some guests that will talk to us about how they make welcoming real, and when it's not real, what is felt and what needs to change. And then the ambassadors. So we have some Welcome Ottawa Week ambassadors who went out of their way to welcome and to create links for people who are coming to the city. Again, Ottawa is my home. I'll end with this. Apart from a few years abroad, it's always been my home. That's pretty rare. Not everybody is from Ottawa, but those who are, you've seen it change. But is it becoming the city that we want? Are we welcoming people who are coming here with their talent, their determination? Are we making sure that our partners, our communities, people from the city continue to build an Ottawa where newcomers are not simply welcome, but they are recognized and honored? Un Ottawa où nos histoires diversifiées ne menacent pas notre unité, mais en sont la source même de cette unité. Merci beaucoup et bonne matinée.
Merci, Dominique, de ces mots touchants et thank you for the call to action about, are we living up to the welcoming reputation? And thank you also for your exceptional leadership. It takes an entire ecosystem. You mentioned the Partnership Council, you mentioned the sector tables, all the different moving parts that make OLIP what it is. And we're very proud to be able to celebrate that today. No?
We're now, she's moving on.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Why I'm here, I just guide her along.
See, and he said that I was the smarter one. I mean, come on. So we're going to move into the highly anticipated highlight of our morning program, the Distinguished Speaker Series Fireside Chat. And this morning's conversation features two extraordinary individuals whose work deeply reflects our theme, 200 years, many stories, one Ottawa. They bring distinct, powerful perspectives on how personal narratives shape our collective identity, culture, and social responsibility.
And we want you to vote for who does a better job. So we'll post online the place where you can go to say, who was smarter at this? As you can see, they've already pulled out the cushy chairs. That's why you know the important people are there. Sarah and I never get to sit in those chairs. We don't even know what they feel like. We don't know if those flowers are real. We don't know what any of that experience is. They keep it to the special people, including our two guests, who once again you can vote for to determine who had the best ideas. And our moderator, the OLIP Vice Chair and dedicated champion for community integration. Please give a warm welcome to Deborah Tunis.
I have some. You good?
So if you go to the farthest, that would be great. Oh, I'm going to move them around later on, but they're fine for now. I'm delighted to be back moderating this series. We've had 4 years now of the Distinguished Speaker Series. The first year we heard from Senator Andrew Cardozo, and then Danielle Bernard, and then last year we had 2 speakers, and we had Adrian Harewood, and we had Debbie Douglas of Okazi. And our speakers always challenge us to think about our community and our country in different ways. This year, Abhijit Pottar will share his journey from Mumbai via Boston to Ottawa to launch nutrition blocks and his concerns about food security for children. And Elamin Abdul Mahmoud will challenge us to think about what purpose immigration serves in Canada. From his arrival in Canada at age 12 from Sudan to his publications Son of Elsewhere and Elbows Up, and I brought my elbows up for you to autograph. Podcasts and CBC broadcasts, he has a special point of view on how we define ourselves as a nation. So thank you very much. And Abby, you're up first. Do you want to come over here? Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you, Deborah, and thank you, everyone. Good morning. I almost didn't make it today to this event due to a conflict, a scheduling conflict. About 6 weeks ago, Magdalene called me and she said, OLIP was putting together an event and they're inviting a few immigrants to come share their stories. And I said, yeah, that sounds great. A few weeks later, I met with Magdalene and her team. They told me about this OLIP event they were putting, Wow, Ottawa, Welcoming Week, Ottawa. And I had never been to this event. And they said, oh, there's going to be a series of these events. I said, sounds great. And I'll be glad to come and share my story. And then a few weeks later, I see something pop up in my email, and it was from the mayor of Ottawa. And he was hosting another event, happened to be on the same day. And I was like, I guess I'm going to miss that. But I was interested. I said, I'm going to see what that event's all about. So I clicked. And I froze because I kept staring at it. I had a tingling feeling, a little bit of a numbness when I saw my name on it. And the same feeling I'm getting today. I was like, okay. And then I saw Elamin, and I was like, oh my God, that's the guy whose radio show I enjoy. Said, great, this is going to be exciting. But somewhere deep down, I was glad that maybe there are people out there who want to hear from me and who want to hear my story, and made me feel a little bit better about the work that Nutrition Blocks is doing in the community. So thank you. I want to thank you, Magdalene, and the OLIP team. Thank you to the mayor's office for inviting me here to share my story. All right. So who am I? Been here about 8.5 years. Some people probably know me as the guy from the hub. Some people know me as the guy who obsessively or passionately talks about starting a school meal program. But that's who I am today. When I first came to Ottawa, people always asked me, why did you come to Ottawa? Do you work for the federal government? And I said, no. And I didn't really have a convincing answer of why I chose Ottawa. And, my talk here today made me question that, is why Ottawa? So anyways, while I was researching for today's talks, and we are celebrating 200 years of Ottawa. We're going to celebrate 160 years of Canada next year. And I was like, okay, when does this whole immigration citizenship journey started? And I was shocked that the first citizenship ceremony in Ottawa actually took place about 80 years ago in 1947, January 3rd, and Prime Minister Mackenzie King became the first citizen of Canada not that long ago. One of the gentlemen in the picture far back is Joseph Kirya, the world-renowned photographer, and he became a citizen in 1947. That was also the year that India became independent from British in 1947. So I thought that was some kind of interesting fact there, that the story of citizenship is not that old. It's fairly new in Canada. 70 years later, can we move to the next slide? Oh, there you go. 70 years from 1947, November of 2017 is when me and my family, we moved to Canada from this beautiful city, Mumbai. That's where I grew up. So anyways, my journey in Ottawa started like most newcomers. I landed here with an equal measure of excitement, but also a lot of uncertainty. I was excited, enthusiastic, a dream of a new life in a new country, but there was also a lot of anxiety. You know, when new immigrants, newcomers come here, not only leaving your family, your friends, your home, your street that you grew up on, but you also leave all your professional connections, your work colleagues. And here I am in a brand new country, in an empty apartment, with a lot of hope, but with a lot of anxiety. And that's how my journey started in Ottawa about 8.5 years ago. At times, it felt very, very lonely. I was frustrated. I didn't know where things were headed. It had been about 6-7 months. I was looking for jobs, and nothing really meaningful was coming my way. And that's a story that most newcomers will share. But that was a time where I met Magdalene, who worked for WorldSkills back then. And then I met a few other organizations in that journey. And what I realized is people like Magdalene and organizations like WorldSkills and OLIP are building a village that is welcoming newcomers like myself, welcoming them to this new country, helping us settle, but helping us grow in the process. And so, you know, people like Magdalene and organizations like WorldSkills, they became my new family. They became my new best friends in the city. They are building that village, as I said. Through that process, I realized I did not have any connections. I did not have friends, and I did not know anybody in the city. And that's where I started my networking journey. I always, whenever I meet newcomers, I always tell them, you have to go out there and you have to meet new people. Networking became my tool to make friends, build my reputation, and really build my credibility and build trust with the people. And through that process, I met so many Canadians. Many of them were newcomers. And through that journey, one of the people who had walked the immigration journey 10 years before I did, trusted me and offered me my first job. And that was Yakuba, right? And that's all. That's what we newcomers need. Is we need that trust from people here, and we need that opportunity to grow. And that's what I got back in 2018. I was invited to convert the Rideau High School, which had recently been closed, and convert it into a community hub for nonprofit organization. And as soon as I got that opportunity, I jumped on it. Councillor King was one of those people before his political life. He was sat on the board of Rideau Rockcliffe, and he believed in my vision, and he trusted me, and he became an ally, not just of the Rideau Hub, but also when we started Nutrition Blocks. So we need people like Councillor King and many people who are in this room who have supported me over the last 8 years of my journey in Canada. During my work, when I started with the Rideau Hub, I met with over 200 organizations and community leaders and people from the community. I did not want to create an office building with nonprofit organization. I really wanted to create a one-stop solution for all the people in that community of Ward 13 and Ward 12. And I wanted to have organizations that no matter who you are, you entered that building and you had a solution in that building. And that was my vision. And that is what I believed in, and that is what stayed with me when I built Nutrition Blocks. I really, really believe in the power of collaboration. You know, we say 1 + 1 is 2, but I believe through the power of collaboration and collective impact, 1 + 1 could be 11. And that is, I believe, through my work at Rideau Hub, I met so many new people. And the more people I knew, I was seeing Ottawa in a different lens. I was understanding the city better. And then, you know, what I learned is Ottawa is probably one of the smallest towns with over 1 million people in it. Ottawa started to shrink, and it started to feel like home for me at that point. But while I did that, my passion was always child nutrition. Deborah mentioned before I came to Ottawa, I had the good fortune to go complete my grad studies in the US. And I worked with the Boston Public Schools for about 6 years. I ran their school nutrition program. And that was the first time my introduction to the nonprofit world. I grew up in India with very modest, in a very modest family, and I saw poverty all around me all the time. And, I had that image of a Western country. When I came into the US, that's when I realized the issue of child nutrition and children coming to school hungry. And that's when I said, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to dedicate, I want to work in the child nutrition sector. And that's what I did. When I came to Ottawa, I wanted to work in the school meal program. But at the same time, I realized Ottawa really did not have that infrastructure. Canada did not have the infrastructure. Canada is the only G7 nation, only one of the 2 OECD countries not to have a national school meal program. 40,000 children in our public school systems here in the capital city are coming to school hungry every single day. And that's a problem. Anyways, I believe that is when in 2018, the seeds of nutrition blocks were planted. I said, if the program doesn't exist, perhaps I can use my experience and my education to change things. But I had bills to pay. And so I said, okay, I'm going to take up a job. I started with the Rideau Community Hub, settling in, made a lot of connections, build a reputation for myself as a compassionate, caring nonprofit professionals. And when things were settling in, suddenly in 2020, we were hit with one of the biggest pandemics, the COVID pandemic, right? Everything shut down. All the social service agencies were closed. And the issue was of food insecurity became a crisis. And that is where I felt maybe this is the moment that I should launch that vision I had in mind. And we started nutrition blocks right in the middle of COVID. What started with serving 200 meals over a weekend at one of the motels, it quickly grew into an organization that served over 1 million meals in the next 2.5 years during COVID. Thank you. Nutrition Blocks was growing. I was proud of the work that I was doing. But somewhere deep down, it was still very unsettling to me. It still bothered me that children in our schools are coming to school hungry every day. And I said, this cannot be the case. I grew up in India, and there's a small prayer that we say before every meal, and I'll recite that. It's called Vadanikya Vargheta Namagha Shri Harice Sahajahavana Hote Namagheta Fukatse Jivani Kari Jivitva Anna He Purna Brahma Udarana Varana No He Jani Jay Yajna Karma. What that means is food is not just a means to fill your bellies. It's not just a means for your livelihood, but it also nourishes your mind and your soul. Offering food to someone is one of the purest form of service, and it's one way you can serve God. And with that vision in mind, in 2023, I made the bold step of becoming an entrepreneur. After 20 years working, I said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to be a social entrepreneur. I quit my job and I gave myself 1 year to grow nutrition blocks. Up until then, we were responding to the COVID programs, but this was the first time I wanted to create nutrition blocks as an organization entirely dedicated to serving children in the city. And that's where in 2023, we started with the first citywide summer nutrition program. Again, I had a lot of allies. My friend Javier is here from the city. And again, he believed in me. His boss, who's also an immigrant, believed in me. And together we launched a summer nutrition program. That program served 20,000 meals, hot meals that summer over 8 weeks. And we have not looked back. It's growing every year. In the last 3 years, we have added a school lunch program for children living in transitional housing and overflow shelters. We've also started an after-school dinner program for children and at-risk youth living in priority areas across the city. I'm very proud of the work that we are doing today. We support about 500 children every day. We serve about 10,000 meals every month. But again, deep down, I worry about those 40,000 children that are coming to school hungry. So that is my story. We are currently working on starting Ottawa's first hot lunch pilot. And my vision is in the next 5 years, I want this program to grow in as many schools as we can. 1 in 4 children living in food insecure household is a problem, but there's also a solution, is the 3 in 4 children. And we want to create a program that every child in Ottawa, when he or she comes to a public school, there is a hot meal waiting for them. So Nutrition Blocks was not built by one person. Maybe it started with a spark in one person, but it was really fueled by everyday Ottawans that were concerned about children coming to school hungry. A lot of people who open their hearts, open their minds, are donors. People with the city, councillors like Councillor King, who believe in that vision. And so for me, what I learned is a welcoming city is simply not a place that opens its doors, but one that creates opportunities for people like me to come in and contribute. So thank you very much.
Good morning. Okay, all right. I've never gotten that response before. I've never been a teacher. You know, that's first of all, can I just say hi to the lawn section over there? Hi, you guys. How you doing? My name is Alamin Abdul Mahmoud. For a living, I host a radio show, which means I don't get out much. You know what I mean. You know, like this is what we're doing here. Look, in the year 2000, 837,000 new permanent residents came into this country. 226,837 people. My mom and I were 2 of those people. I was born in Sudan. I lived there until I was 12 years old. My dad left Sudan when I was 7. And so I didn't see him again until I was 12. And so I arrived in this country, and until I arrived in this country, for me, Canada was the place where my dad was. That's really the only thing that I knew about this country. And I came here, and there was a lot of learning to do. And so much of the learning that I had to do happened through the radio. That is how I learned what this country was. I learned through listening to CBC quite often. I learned through listening to the music that was played. Earlier in the sort of montage of Canadian songs, "I'm Like a Bird" was one of them. That's me sort of sitting by the radio, trying to figure out what this country is, trying to go like, why is this lady thinking about being like a bird? Trying to understand the meaning of this country. And I was going to tell you a lot about that, but I'm not. I'm not going to tell you about any of that, because what I actually want to talk about today is the experience of watching the World Cup. How many of you watched that Egypt game yesterday, by the way? Yeah, all right. Listen, even if you don't actually root for Egypt, you do now because I'm speaking. Root for your own country after I'm done speaking. But while I'm up here, we're rooting for everybody black, and we're rooting for every African nation. That's what we're doing. Look, one of the most interesting parts of watching this World Cup has been watching visitors reacting, whether in this country or just wherever the World Cup is being hosted. Here's a fun thing you might not know. Every team of the World Cup gets put in one camp. So like they all sort of are based in one specific city. It's kind of an under talked about aspect of the World Cup. So Scotland, for example, is currently based Like the Scottish team, their home base is Boston, which is why you see so many Scottish fans in Boston. Korea's team is based in Guadalajara. Panama's team is actually based not too far from me, based in Alliston, Ontario, out of all places. And Algeria is based in Lawrence, Kansas. And as you kind of watch the teams and you watch where their fans go, what you end up with is kind of an interesting thing that has been making news in a bunch of different ways. So maybe you saw those videos of the Scottish team descending on Boston and going to see a Red Sox game and taking over the entire stadium and just singing very loudly while people playing baseball are like, what's happening behind us? It was one of my favorite things in the world to see. I saw this one Korean journalist who kept on talking about how she's never seen Korean people behave like they're behaving in Guadalajara. They're partying with strangers. They're doing keg stands. And she was like, I've never seen Korean people do this. There's a really lovely news story about from Kansas about this kid who was saying how one of the Algerian players taught him how, because he's really hoping that Algeria is going to do something this World Cup. This young kid from Kansas learned from one of the Algerian players to say, Inshallah. And I love these stories a lot. And I started thinking about why I love them so much. And I think the reason for that is because they felt really familiar to me. They felt really familiar to me because what we call like a white Canadian teenager learning to say Inshallah from a new Arab friend, that's a Tuesday, right? We are deeply familiar with that particular thing. The idea of people of Korean and Mexican heritage partying together, hopefully that's a Friday or a Saturday. You don't want to do that in the middle of the weekday. But the extraordinary thing about this country is that all of these relationships that I think to me are the norm here are making news in other places. They are newsworthy in other places. And so every time that I keep seeing these news stories, kind of go, that wouldn't pass the bar in the newsroom, would it? Because like that's just the thing that we are about as a country. And I think that's important. I think there's a story there that we don't think about enough. Because I think there's a story that is often told about immigration and about newcomers and what they can offer Canada. I like that story. I think about that story often. And I think that's important. I think that's also a small part of the picture. I think the big part of the picture of this country is that we need our newcomers, and we need to figure out how to serve our newcomers better because it's part of our identity as a country. It's a much larger thing. It's not about what newcomers are bringing. It's about that's just the thing that we do in this place. I think the beauty and the essence of this country is that it's actually continuously been a story of expansion, figuring out how to make room. I think Canada is at its very best when we're sort of expanding the story of this country. And I say this like as someone who was, on the way here in the cab, passing through Corso Italia and looking at the history of Corso Italia here in Ottawa, founded in 1900. It's relatively recent, but more recent than other Corso Italias. But when you think about that, you think about every wave of immigration that has come to this country in the last 150 years or so. The waves of immigration have actually been their own versions of expansion, right? The Italian wave of immigration, the Jewish wave of immigration, the Polish wave of immigration, the Indian wave of immigration. I was a part of a wave of immigration that included people coming from Sudan, from Somalia, and Eritrea in the late 90s and early 2000s. So when I think about the reason and the purpose for immigration, we quite often frame it in how does this country benefit? And I think what I'm increasingly frustrated by is there's a real narrowness to that. There's a real narrowness to that because it sounds to me too transactional. It doesn't actually cohere with what I think is the history of this country, because the history of this country has been a story of expansion, and that's my favorite thing about it. That's all I have to say. Let's get the conversation going.
Is this one? Oh, yes, this one's way better. Okay, they gave the good one to the pro. I'm delighted that you brought in the World Cup. That was wonderful. So this morning we've heard from Claudette Commanda and Ottawa about the long history of Indigenous peoples here. And we've also heard about Ottawa celebrating a milestone this year of 200 years of the city existing as an entity. There's lots of stories that we could gather in and collect in this room. We've heard a little bit from Abby this morning, but how do you see your own personal journey since arriving in 2017 intertwining with the historic fabric of this city?
Thank you. So as I said, like, immigrants bring different cultures. They bring their language, their food. When I lived in the US, I always heard the term melting pot, that people from all across the country, globe, came to the US and they all became Americans. When I look at Canada, I see Canada more of a mosaic where we all bring our own cultures and we all coexist. As I said, I grew up in India with a very modest background. We were not poor, but again, we pretty much a family that lived hand to mouth. We understood early on, or I understood early on, that education was the key for me to move ahead. Studied hard, got my undergrad degree. And then, I was fortunate enough to receive a full scholarship to go to grad studies in the US. I went there. I learned about the Western culture, but I also, one of the misconceptions I had was Western countries are very rich and there is no problems like we see back home in India. And that wasn't true. And again, that inspired me back in early 2000 to say, I will work in the nonprofit sector for the rest of my life. So that is what I brought to Canada when I came in. And I think that's where a lot of immigrant communities are bringing.
Thanks so much. So, Ellen, Ottawa is a city, but it's also the capital of Canada. And when you think of, and we've just been joined by the mayor. So I'm talking about the city and the country. Mayor Sutcliffe, and we're looking forward to hearing from you shortly. But right now, Elamin's going to talk to us a bit about how sharing his journey through Son of Elsewhere and then Elbows Up, how that process of sharing that, how that builds Canada.
Is this one? Yeah, all right, we're good. Look, I wrote Son of Elsewhere. It came out in 2022. And so he's had a pretty lovely life so far. I've been very grateful for the life that book has had. It's a memoir of growing up in Sudan, then leaving Sudan, and then coming to Kingston, Ontario. That's where my dad settled. But what has been really wonderful about the book is that it's kind of connected with people in ways I really genuinely did not anticipate. People who were born here and people who were immigrants to this country who have kind of said, you know what, I see myself in this book in ways that I did not anticipate. And I think there is something to be said about the fact that we are really all these collections of stories. And what people are looking for more often than not is an invitation to share their own. That's been my favorite part. That's been my favorite part of the life that this book has had, is like all of the book events that we end up doing. People come up to me and say, I liked your book. Let me tell you about where I'm from. Let me tell you about the story of how my family got here, the story of how we ended up in this place, and also how this book ended up in my hand. And then also the second life that the book has had is that people have been sort of generous enough to share it with their immigrant friends who say, like, this is one version of what it means to come to this country. I think recognizing that multiplicity has been really helpful for me, because when I was writing it, like, something about the writing process is just like, it's just you and the keyboard. It's a very sort of lonely, isolated process. But then the book has this life that is well beyond what you sort of imagine it to be. And it ends up being like, oh, so many of us sort of share some of these stories, even if we don't often invite one another to share them,
So for both of you, and we may start with Abby first and then go to Elamin. At OLIP, we believe very much that a truly welcoming city isn't where people are isolated, where there is that connection, between established Canadians, newcomers, and others. So in your respective fields, in terms of mobilizing grassroots community care, or for Semaine, sparking a whole conversation with commotion on a daily basis, how do we move past that surface level of simple coexistence and build genuine, lasting connections?
Thank you, Deborah. So yeah, as I said, when I said earlier, in my experience, whether it was working or converting the Rideau High School into a community hub or through nutrition blocks, I really believe it takes a village, which includes government officials, elected officials, community organizations, community leaders. It is not, we have some complex issues in the city, and the solutions are not simple, but collaboratively we can work towards it. So that is what I believe is we need more, even with nutrition blocks, what we do is we collaborate with 20 plus different organizations to find solutions. It is not one solutions for everyone. Every community's needs are different. And I think you just have to be caring and compassionate when you build those solutions.
I mean, look, I part of putting together a daily radio show has been about trying to figure out what stories we're paying attention to, what stories we're not. And we have a small team of producers who sort of gather twice a week to figure out, what are we going to program that week? But a large part of that has been about expanding beyond our own comfort zones, because it's very, very easy for me to sort of pitch stories that concern things that I know, things that I'm familiar with. But what's really wonderful about having such a diverse range of people in the room with us is that it forces you to sort of have to step outside of that perspective. And then you put all of those stories, on a table and say, look, I know I'm interested in this story and this is a story that I pitch, but objectively that story is much more important. That story is much more urgent for us to sort of turn towards that. And it's the same kind of training that, you have to develop just in terms of thinking, moving through the world, of the idea of the willingness to make other people's stories your story, the willingness to make other people's problem your problem. That is how you step outside of the maybe the silos that you kind of end up creating, not intending to create them, but maybe you kind of naturally exist in them. You have to sort of regularly push yourself to the edge of your own kind of understanding so it feels very familiar to step outside of the stuff that and go okay, what don't I know? Where am I not looking? And that just becomes a part of the way that you live your life.
So, Abby, when you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and things, you're very much working at the front end in terms of issues around housing, issues around basic nutrition, food security, and all of that. In terms of those foundations that you're building, do you feel that then that has a bigger impact on a sense of belonging for the individuals you're serving?
Yeah, I do. So, I'm a newcomer, relatively speaking, and what I see in Canada or what I see in Ottawa is when we build public spaces, public services, whether it's your public schools, your hospitals, public transportations, public parks, when we use police services, other services, these services are built for everybody in the city. That when you go to public school, when you go to a hospital, places of worship, you don't feel the shame. It's for everybody, everyone's accessing it. What I realize is when it comes to food services, especially serving the communities in need, there is a huge disparity on how those services are built. Families like us, we go to a grocery store. Families who don't have the resources, they have to stand up in line outside a building once a month to receive a box of food that somebody else is going to decide that you're going to eat, that what is good for you. Same thing with some of the day programs that we have, right? So that is how, I believe that there is a huge disparity in how some of these services are designed, especially as a newcomer. I have seen families, there's a lot of shame using those services. These are not safe spaces. These are not dignified places. A lot of newcomers do not access them. And I've seen families make the decision, even though they know they are going hungry and their children are going hungry, they will not access those solutions. So at Nutrition Blocks, we're trying to create services that removes that barrier. I know my friend Ali is here, and he's building an excellent company that's adding, Ali, that's you. That's adding dignity on how services are provided for families, newcomer families in Ottawa. So that is what we are building.
So in terms of commotion and culture and representation, there's also an element, I mean, you talked in your remarks about expansion and Canadian identity expanding, but there's also an element of disruption in that. And how do you feel that tension between kind of disruption and expansion? How do you marry that?
When you say disruption, what do you mean? Could I just ask you a little bit?
Well, you're challenging this kind of the status quo a bit.
I think that honestly, what I quite often find, at least with our audiences, is a willingness to come along. Like I don't experience that as a disruption so much as I think it's like a very hungry audience that wants wider stories about what this country is. And I don't think commotion is actually an exception to this. I think like in general across the CBC, the thing that we're hearing is there is a version of the CBC that used to serve a story of Canada that I'm not sure exists anymore. And so much of what's happening at the CBC is about sort of trying to broaden that definition to speak to people that we have not spoken to before. And so if there are people who experience that as a disruption, I am very grateful to be shielded from them in a sense, because I think like the thing that we experience on our team is always encouragement. And I say this as someone who like, we just had a lengthy sort of half-day meeting last week about who our listenership is and who's actually listening to the show, and the idea of like, okay, this is a range of diversity that we have sort of already have accomplished. Can we push that further? How do we actually manage to draw in people who don't think the CBC is for them? That's who I'm after. That's who the people like who I work with are after. I think there's an understanding that the CBC as an organization has existed for a long time to serve a very, sometimes can be seen as a narrow story of Canada, but that's not the reality of it. The reality of it is that actually people like me came to understand this country through the CBC, and I don't think I'm an exception to that. And it's about being deliberate about reaching those people. And I think so to us, that disruption is very, very welcome. In fact, we only experience it as expansion.
So both of you have demonstrated exceptional leadership in your fields. And as OLIP, we're trying to play a leadership role in terms of the community and in terms of the issues that we're working on. How do you see sort of individual initiative versus collective action?
Yeah, so we at Nutrition Blocks, when we started about 6 years ago, I truly believed in the power of collaboration. I think I've spoken about it, but I really believe the public-private philanthropic partnership is the way forward. When I look at the public sector, I look, people like Mayor, the councillors, people that work with the city, who create policies where services can be offered more equitably. People can access those services. I look at the private sector, businesses, whether small, large, banks, who are all offering services to people in the community. And then I look at the philanthropic sector, and I'm certainly part of the philanthropic sector. Again, what we need is we need that ecosystem where we can come in and we can offer those services. So yeah, we do need collective action there. But somewhere deep down, you also need the right vision. I think as a community leader, I would say, or a nonprofit professional, I think every one of us needs to have the right vision. Mayor Sutcliffe recently announced his vision for 2030 of ending youth homelessness. We need those visionary ideas that we can all tag on to and we can collectively work on. So I think there is both individual leadership and vision, and having that ecosystem to thrive are important.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I am the voice that people hear on the radio, but there's a gigantic team behind that voice. And so like there's at the end of the day, if I only believed in sort of individual action as a sort of way forward, I would not be very good at my job, right? Like I'm well aware of the fact that people sort of experience that and listen to that show and go, oh, there's this one person talking to me. But behind that, there is a team of producers and a team of techs and a team of video people and a team of social media people that sort of make sure that that show arrives at where it needs to arrive and finds the audience it needs to actually find. And baked into that is also how we change the conversation that we're having in this country actually does start with an individual coming to a group of people and saying, I think the story for us to do is this. I know we're looking over here, but can we look over here instead? We are fortunate to be a culture show, right? That we are an arts and entertainment and pop culture show. And part of that is a gigantic privilege because we get to engage the things that people are talking about and maybe shift their idea of who is talking about those. And that includes finding new voices to add to the collective. And we take that responsibility really seriously. It's one of my favorite parts of the job.
So does anyone in the audience have a question for our panelists? Yes. Are we doing microphones now?
Can I give you this one?
Yeah, thank you, speakers. It was incredible. I have the privilege to know Abi for several years when he first started. You almost made it so simple, but I know how much you and your wife work hard. And I'm glad we finally recognized your social impact and value. But I believe there is more to come. I think in a couple of years, we will notice how much you have done for the city. Now, my question is, how can we help you?
As I said, Omer, thank you for the question. Again, Omer and I met after 3 or 4 months after I landed here, and I was fascinated with his story of his immigration journey coming to Canada, Ottawa, as a refugee from Turkey. And I've always looked up to Omer and so many more people. And as I said, sometimes you just need that support. When you come in as a newcomer, you need that trust, someone to say, I believe in you. And that's all it takes sometimes for someone like me to get motivated. So I think the trust in immigrants and what they bring to this country, what they bring to this city, we are striving to make this city better. And again, I want to thank the mayor we work very closely with a lot of departments within the city. And I believe it's true leadership and the mayor's vision that is, in a way, having these departments reach out to organizations like me and making a difference in the city. So.
And so, Magdalene, I'm looking for a cue. Should I keep going on questions or do we want to switch to the ambassadors now? Okay, 1 or 2 more questions. There we go. Yes.
Thank you very much, panelists. I am Sam Berridge, High Commissioner for St. Kitts and Nevis to Canada. And we are very proud to be in Ottawa. This is our home, away from home. And we interact a lot with our diasporans, especially the newcomers, and they ask us a lot of questions. Now, being the face of the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, we have to be careful that we do offer advice within the confines of the law. And there is a word which hangs over everybody being illegal or undocumented. You invariably, we have a cousin who wants to come for vacation and they like Canada and they don't want to go back. They don't want to go back. They want to, how do you navigate when you give advice, knowing the benefits of immigration, diversity? The mayor speaks about this all the time. diversity, inclusion, but this must be done within the framework of the law. We don't want to give advice which encourages people to come and shack up and be a burden on the state and on organizations with goodwill like you. The churches will welcome them, yes, but at the end of the day, they have to sleep somewhere. How do you navigate that oil and water kind of dynamic? Give me your advice. Thank you.
So I'm not an immigration expert and I will not comment on it. But, as I said, we build our services at nutrition blocks. We create programs that welcome everybody, whether it's in schools, whether it's in community centers, children attending summer camps. We do not ask. We believe all children should have access to nutrition every day. And so again, we don't see immigration status. We don't see income status. Because when you have a group of children come in, sit together and have a meal together, something magical happens. So that's all I would say.
Do we have another question? Okay. Well, yes, okay, Magdalene, thanks. So now am I handing it over to Alan and, I'm handing out the gifts. Oh, even better. I love you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to steal the roses for Alan's. It's real. And Sarah can have one too, because they said that.
Purchasing gifts to other people.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because you said you didn't get the roses.
I can use it, sure. Yeah. I've got this. Great, thank you.
Put it in my hair.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll put it later. Remember earlier when you're like, I want a rose?
I know, yeah.
That's exactly what I was
thinking the whole time.
Thank you so much. I'm going to treasure this for always. But thank you indeed for that conversation. What you guys bring to the table, what you do for the city, what you do for the airwaves as well, and continuing that thought-provoking ideas here today was amazing to see. Opening minds in a lot of different ways. Including this idea that there's more to a radio show than a host. I'm learning things all the time. So thank you so much, everyone, for bringing what you did today to this.
Oui, merci beaucoup pour ces perspectives, rappelant l'importance de l'écoute, de l'empathie surtout. Et nous allons bientôt commencer la cérémonie de remise des prix des ambassadeurs. Mais before that, since he did stand up, I did sort of see you in passing, High Commissioner, for St. Kitts and Nevis. If you are a representative of the diplomatic corps representing your diaspora, please stand up so that we may acknowledge you. Yes, there we go. Thank you, merci, shukran for coming to join us. And thank you for that question about immigration status and empathy. And Abaljit answered it very well. Empathy does not see your status. So that's excellent. Alors, les ambassadeurs, les prix des ambassadeurs d'accueil d'Ottawa. Since 2014, these annual awards have shone a bright light on everyday residents who embody the true spirit of hospitality. These are individuals who don't just talk about inclusion, they practice it through spontaneous, genuine acts of kindness, helping newcomers navigate the often overwhelming journey of building a new life in our city.
And I have to say, this is always inspiring to me because every time I get grumpy about this city, I come to an event like this and I see what kind of welcoming people there are. Every year, OLIP invites immigrants and refugees across Ottawa to nominate a resident who made a life-changing difference in their settlement journey. So this gets very competitive. A lot of elbows up here as well. Selection committee received almost 300 nominations, and it was difficult to choose only 5 outstanding individuals to receive the 2026 Welcoming Ottawa Ambassador Awards. So thanks to everybody who nominated someone, and even though only 5 people get the award today, all of those other 295 nominations also represent the spirit of hospitality that people in the city show every day. We give you your flowers. Our award recipients are exceptional individuals. Celebrate these contributors. If you can use the hashtag, if you're posting about this, it's hashtag #WOW2026. I realize now that with the 2-week thing, like the Welcoming Ottawa week that is actually 2 weeks, we have the opportunity to change the name to Welcoming Ottawa Fortnight. I don't know if we use the GHT, we don't have to pay the Fortnite TE people. So I think it could work, but WAF does not work as well. You can share your favorite moments and your quotes and photos on social media. You tag on Facebook as well, Ottawa LIP, and OLIP -PLIO on LinkedIn, and on Instagram, OLIP_PLIO. You'll find them somewhere. To present these awards, it is my pleasure to welcome His Worship, the Mayor of Ottawa, Mark Sutcliffe.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. It really is a pleasure to look around this room and see so many terrific people who are invested and giving their time every day to welcoming people to our city. I look forward to this week every year. It is very, very special, and it's an honor for me to join you today. C'est vraiment un honneur de vous joindre aujourd'hui pour cette célébration. And to be doing it during Ottawa's 200th anniversary year is very special as well. This is the story of our city. We are a city of immigrants along with our Indigenous community. We are a city that has been built in partnership with a lot of people like my parents who moved to Ottawa as immigrants, who joined the city and were welcomed here. This is a narrative that is very close to my heart. And I want to thank the team at the Ottawa Local Immigration Partnership for organizing today's event, coordinating more than 50 activities throughout the week, and most especially for all the work that you do throughout the year. Because it's not just about this week, it's about the other 51 weeks of the year as well, and the great work that OLIP does throughout the year. I want to acknowledge the members of the diplomatic community who are here today, who are such a vital part of our story as well. That's one of the special things about Ottawa is we have representatives from 130, 140 countries around the world who are part of our community. I want to thank Deborah and Elamine and Abby for that great, thoughtful discussion. Great to be joined by my colleague, Ralston King, who lives and represents these values every single day in his work for his community and for our whole city. Thank you to the OLIP board led by Dominique, to the staff. We're very grateful for everything you do. To the community partners, to the members of the business community who support this great work. Thank you for what you do. And thank you to the past recipients of these Ambassador Awards. And congratulations to this year's recipients. Thank you for the amazing work that you have done to support newcomers to our city. This morning, we're celebrating something that can't be measured in terms of data or statistics. We're celebrating a commitment that people have made to supporting new arrivals to our city. Every one of our Welcoming Ottawa ambassadors proves that making someone feel at home is not something that necessarily requires a grand gesture. It is daily support. It's reaching out in a moment of need. It is answering a question. It's offering encouragement. It's helping with a resume. It's helping make introductions and connections. These nominees don't just help people navigate a new city, they help them build a new life. They become mentors, they become friends, they become neighbors, and in some cases, they even become like family. Their kindness strengthens our neighborhoods. It contributes to our economy, it enriches our culture, and it reminds us of the kind of city that Ottawa is and that Ottawa strives to be. So to all the nominees, 300 nominees, is that right? That's amazing. 300. Maybe we should be giving out more of these awards every year rather than just 5. But to all the nominees, thank you for showing that the true spirit of Ottawa is found in people who open doors, who lend a hand, who make others feel that they belong. Et félicitations à toutes les personnes qui ont contribué à cette réussite et merci de représenter si bien le meilleur d'Ottawa. Thank you for making people feel like they belong here. That is so critically important. Thank you for what you do. So I'm looking forward to meeting all of you as you come up to accept your awards. Congratulations again, and thank you to every single one of you for being part of this. Merci beaucoup.
I'm short. Thank you, Mayor Sutcliffe. I think you need to be on the stage. Yes. And thank you for your support and for ensuring that Ottawa is a welcoming city. Recently, you launched Multiculturalism Week as well and Ottawa Day. So yeah, that was great. So you will now be presenting the WOW Ambassador Awards to 5 amazing individuals in our city. And as I read each ambassador's profile, we kindly ask that the recipient remain seated. Once the full citation is read is when I will invite you to come up and join Mayor Sutcliffe on stage for an official photograph. So don't take your award and run off. We want a nice picture of you. And we'll also ask the audience to hold their applause until I have finished reading the whole citation. Welcoming Ottawa Ambassador Kais Al-Irani, nominated by Radwan Hubaish. It took Radwan Hubaish 12 years to achieve his dream of coming to Canada. As he arrived in Ottawa with his wife and young children in February 2023, during a massive snowstorm, imagine that. He will always remember fondly one act of kindness from that first night. A stranger named Kais Al-Irani knocked on the door, carrying clothing, blankets, and food. In his Yemeni dialect, he smiled and said, "Welcome to Ottawa." He gave him his phone number and said, "If you need anything, call me." Now a good friend, Kais has become a mentor and source of support for the Hubaish family. They participate in activities hosted by the Friends of Yemen, a nonprofit organization chaired by Kais. Every weekend, people from the organization's 300-member WhatsApp group, yay WhatsApp, get together to enjoy nature, be active, and make friends. Like so many newcomers, Radwan misses his family back home, but he's thankful to have found a chosen family in Ottawa and that his children now call his friend Uncle Kais. Please welcome Kais Al-Irani. Please come on stage. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's weird. You're listening to someone talk about you and you don't realize it's you, and then you just sit there. And that his children now call his friend Uncle Wonderful. Kais. Congratulations. Please welcome Irani. Please come on stage. Ensuite, nous avons l'ambassadrice accueillante d'Ottawa, Sylvie Tivierge. Ah, on attend. Je sais, on est enthousiaste, mais on attend. Et la personne qui a soumis sa candidature, c'est Ludovic Fjolfak Kemanang. Oh my gosh, are you from Cameroon? Okay, sorry if I mashed up your name. Désirant un environnement plus stable pour élever leurs 5 enfants, Ludovic Fjolfak Kemanang et son épouse ont immigré au Canada en décembre 2025 grâce au programme d'entrée express. Confronté à un marché du travail difficile, il a heureusement pu compter sur Sylvie Tivierge, conseillère en formation pour les programmes d'intégration au marché de l'emploi du Collège La Cité. 3 à 4 fois par semaine, Sylvie envoie des offres d'emploi à Ludovic et fait un suivi mensuel pour l'encourager. Elle révise son CV et l'aide à postuler. Ludovic apprécie particulièrement la rigueur de Sylvie, son efficacité, sa capacité à mener plusieurs tâches de front et le fait qu'elle évite les jeux de ping-pong téléphoniques. Son aide ne s'est pas limitée à la recherche d'emploi. Elle lui a indiqué une clinique d'impôt gratuite et des magasins proposant des vêtements pour enfants à des prix raisonnables. Elle l'a aidé à trouver un médecin de famille et une garderie et elle a déniché un programme permettant de subventionner les soins dentaires de son fils. Ludovic sait que Sylvie ne sera pas satisfaite que lorsqu'il aura trouvé un emploi et lorsqu'il y parviendra, elle sera sa référence numéro 1. Sylvie Tivierge. Merci, merci Sylvie. Our next welcoming Ottawa ambassador is Reverend Joseph Kirya, nominated by Hakeem Lubwama. When Hakeem Lubwama arrived as a refugee from Uganda in 2024, one person's support and guidance was instrumental in his successful integration. Reverend Joseph Kirya provided him with shelter at a difficult time so that Hakeem could focus on rebuilding his life in Canada. Reverend Kirya is the executive director of Stepstone House, comprised of 10 houses in Ottawa and nearby communities, which each year provide a short-term home to over 110 refugee claimants and newcomers. Joseph believed in the young engineer's potential. He provided Hakeem with the startup capital to create Chisel General Maintenance, Inc., his thriving business, which now has more than 10 employees, many of whom are immigrants. To this day, Joseph continues to mentor Hakeem and monitor the growth of the business, offering encouragement, advice, and motivation. Reverend Joseph Kirya. Thank you, Reverend Kirya. Ensuite, nous avons l'ambassadrice accueillante d'Ottawa, Hala Ben Hussein, qui a été, dont la candidature a été proposée par Daniel Mag. Il y a 7 mois, vous m'excuserez si je prononce mal votre nom. Mag ou Magué? Mag? Magué. Mag. OK, donc, non, je veux bien prononcer là. Alors, il y a 7 mois, Danielle Mag est arrivée à Ottawa avec son mari. Elle avait quitté son pays d'origine, le Cameroun, à la recherche d'une vie meilleure. Lors de son premier rendez-vous à l'infocentre du nouvel arrivant du YMCA, Danielle a été frappée par la façon dont Hala Bensain, la spécialiste de l'information et de l'orientation, qu'il a reçue, l'a immédiatement mise à l'aise et en confiance. Elle a trouvé des ressources et des programmes prénatals pour Danielle, qui était enceinte de son premier enfant. En l'absence de famille élargie à Ottawa, elle a joué un rôle essentiel pour répondre aux nombreuses questions de la jeune femme et veiller à ce que ses besoins nutritionnels soient comblés. Elle a guidé Daniel à travers de nombreux aspects de la vie quotidienne, notamment pour l'aider à comprendre les transports en commun, à accéder aux services communautaires et à se retrouver dans les démarches administratives. En attendant la date prévue de l'accouchement, le 10 août, Daniel Bag. Our next welcoming Ottawa ambassador is Agata Lurch, nominated by Khadija Wahab. At a very important time in her life, Khadija Wahab, who immigrated from Algeria in April 2023, counted on her English teacher, Agata Lurch, to truly change a stressful situation. In her acting team lead position at the Canadian Border Services Agency, Khadija's contract was coming to an end, and she would lose her job if she didn't achieve a C level in English. She had attained level B 3 times in the test, so she signed up for English as a second language twice weekly, evening classes taught by Agata. Agata helped Khadija in ways that went beyond simply increasing her English fluency, teaching her how to approach the exam and organize herself. Although she had a class of 35 students, Agata took time to coach Khadija on doing mock interview simulations. She encouraged her and helped to build her confidence and English proficiency, even when she struggled. The hard work and perseverance paid off. Khadija did the exam on July 29th, 2025, met the level C requirement, and she's so thankful to her English teacher who helped her with this incredible achievement. Agata. Oh,
Let's hear it one more time for all the WOW ambassadors, everybody. Woo! And again, we say, like, we watch what these people are doing, what the other 295 people who are nominated are doing. And A, yes, we obviously need more statuettes, but B, think about what we can all do to make the city as amazing as what they're doing right now. Thank you for the inspirations. Thank you.
And start looking in your midst for people to nominate. Now's the time. So as we look to the final portion of our morning, we want to shift our focus back to the core, the reason why we're here together, the attitude of welcome. Systems and structures are essential, but true belonging is felt in the everyday interactions, open doors, and lived experiences within our neighborhoods.
And so to further inspire you and maybe teach you a little bit about what it takes, we're going to bring back one of our WOW ambassadors up to the podium here. You have to get 5 of the awards before you get to sit in those chairs. You have to go to the podium today. Please welcome 2026 WOW ambassador, Agata Lurch.
Good morning, everyone. When I arrived in Ottawa more than 30 years ago, I could never have imagined that one day I would be standing here receiving the Welcoming Ottawa Ambassador Award. And I'm truly honored and deeply grateful for this recognition. Like many immigrants, I arrived carrying hopes, dreams, more than a few fears, and a very misleading first impression of Ottawa weather. 30 years later, I'm still trying to figure it out. I know, most of us. What helped me find my place here wasn't only Ottawa's settlement programs, but also the people I met along the way. People who took the time to answer my questions, explain things I didn't understand, and make me feel that I wasn't on my own, that I had a place here. They helped me navigate the many mysteries of Canadian life, including, eventually, what a double-double was. More importantly, they helped me understand that I belonged. Today, when I meet newcomers in my classroom, I often see a version of them in myself. And people finding their way in a new country, building a life for themselves and their families, navigating unfamiliar systems, and figuring out how to survive an Ottawa winter. They arrive with hopes, questions, sometimes a healthy fear of speaking English in front of a room full of strangers. But something wonderful happens over time. Strangers become classmates, classmates become friends, confidence grows, community begins to form. And before long, those people who were afraid to speak are helping the next newcomer feel welcomed and at home. I've learned that sometimes the most important thing we can offer is not information or advice alone, but encouragement, patience, kindness, and genuine human connection. Over the years, I've realized something simple. Language classes are about much more than language. They're about confidence. They're about community. They're about creating a space where people feel comfortable enough to speak up and make mistakes. And sometimes laugh at those mistakes together, which we often do. Every day, I have the privilege of watching newcomers support, encourage, and celebrate one another. Seeing those connections form is one of the greatest joys of my work. This award is a great honor, but I see it as something much bigger than my own work. There are so many people in Ottawa from all walks of life who show kindness in quiet, everyday ways. Many will never be recognized, but they are a big part of what makes the city welcoming. That spirit of openness, generosity, kindness, and humanity is what makes Ottawa so special. And I feel very fortunate to be part of it. I'm deeply grateful to my students, Khadijah's here, colleagues, community partners, my family and friends who share this commitment. This award reflects all of us working together to make Ottawa a welcoming and inclusive community. Thank you for this honor, and thank you for helping create a city where people from around the world can build a new life, find a community, and truly feel that they belong. Thank you very much.
I can totally relate about the language classes being more than language class. I was an FSL and ESL teacher for 20 years, so I totally understand what you're talking about. So while we celebrate those who welcome newcomers at an individual grassroots level, we also know that creating a truly welcoming community requires systemic leadership. It requires visionary advocates who step forward to steer our institutions, tables, and community strategies toward true equity. One of the main contributors to this year's WOW launch is the LASI, Local Agencies Serving Immigrants, a group of 11 settlement agencies who have been supporting the integration of newcomers to Ottawa for over 3 decades. Their leadership, collectively, has given rise to many programs and services to support thousands of newcomers in their settlement and employment journeys.
And so this morning, we want to formally recognize and celebrate some of the outgoing OLIP community leaders. They've had it with the rest of you. They're moving on. But no, these individuals have dedicated, in many cases, years and years of volunteer service and strategic expertise and unwavering passion to the issues and the programs and events like this. So to present these awards, please welcome Ms. Andrea Gardner, Associate Executive Director of Jewish Family Services and co-chair of the Health and Wellbeing Sector Table of OLIP, to the stage. Woo!
Oh, there's a lot more people out here than when you're sitting over there. You can't see everybody. My name is Andrea Gardner, for those who I haven't had the pleasure to meet before. I am the Associate Executive Director of Jewish Family Services, been a part of the social services sector for a long time, but for the last 15 years have had the pleasure to be involved in the newcomer and settlement communities. But I am not here to represent Jewish Family Services. Rather, I am very proud to represent a coalition of agencies, as you've already heard, that have worked together for more years than I have been at JFS, and I've been there for about 25 years, providing a coalition that supports, advocates for, and collectively fills gaps in services for newcomers in Ottawa. Our coalition, LASSI, Local Agency Serving Immigrants, is unique not just to Ottawa, but nationally. I almost always use our acronyms, but for all of you in the room, I am going to say each agency's name, and I hope that I don't mess it up. So, Jewish Family Services, OLIP, Ottawa Local Immigration Partnership, Catholic Center for Immigrants, CCI, Ottawa Chinese Community Services Center, OCCSC, Ottawa Community Immigrant Services, OCISO, Somali Center for Family Services, the Center for Community Settlement Support and Guidance, also known as CESOC, La Cité, YMCA, Newcomer Information Center, World Skills, and the Lebanese and Arab Social Services. So it is with pride that on behalf of LASSI, I've been invited to honor two community members, and I'd like to say friends, who have had a significant impact on our newcomer communities in Ottawa. Our first honoree is Kelly Tonner. Kelly has been a steadfast champion with OLIP, serving with distinction as my co-chair of our Health and Wellbeing Sector Table. In this vital leadership role, she has brought an exceptional wealth of knowledge, a collaborative spirit, and a deep and practical focus to the implementation of the Ottawa Immigrant Strategy. Her dedication to ensuring that healthcare and social systems are truly responsive to the immediate, everyday needs of newcomers has left a lasting impact on our network. Kelly, thank you for your years of invaluable service, your strategic insights, and your unwavering commitment to building a healthier, more equitable Ottawa. It has been a pleasure for me to be within your circle of colleagues after 28 years. Is there anything that I need to do? Are we doing anything? Can I hug her? Yeah. So out of it, like, go on the stage. I'm going to take my off. She rang well. All right. Mr. Desire. Next, we celebrate and we thank Sefer Desire. For anybody who has ever worked with him, Mr. Desire, as he so fondly calls himself. Recently marked a momentous milestone, retiring from CESOC after 19 years of profound, dedicated service to the community. Throughout nearly 2 decades, Mr. Desire has been a pillar of strength for OLIP, championing shared mission and lending his strategic vision to the executive committee. His leadership has been vital in bridging grassroots community realities with high-level systemic planning, particularly in fostering the inclusion and expansion of the Francophone immigration pathways. Mr. Desire, thank you for your exceptional devotion, your structural leadership on the executive committee, and for your outstanding legacy of making Ottawa a city where everybody can truly belong. That's two. This is the second time I've spoken on his behalf. Very exciting. You have to go up on the stage currently and do something there. Okay, here's the last. And finally, we're just going to ask you to indulge us in one last. First, I would like to represent my Lassie colleagues to the stage. I see Mengus and Kathleen. I see Osiso. We've got OLIP. Come on up, you. Yes. St. Farah representing Queenie. We're not all here, but this is most of us. Okay. Thank you. 2 weeks ago, we lost a pillar in our newcomer community. Mr. Abdi Karod was a bright light, a leader who had a profound impact to the newcomer community, but more importantly, to the Somali community. He was a founding member of Lassie, a quiet voice that held strength and conviction. Jewish Family Services was honored to be a mentor to the Somali Center for Family Services in their early days. And that partnership, which continues to exist today, set the important foundation of how, despite our different faiths, cultures, or backgrounds, working together, modeling collaboration and community makes a difference. Abdi did this over and over and over again with different communities, with other agencies, and in the most unlikely places. We share our thoughts with Abdi's family, of whom he was immensely proud, with the staff from the Somali Center for Family Services, and with the entire community. We have lost a friend, and so I'd like to ask for us to just take a moment of silence in honor of our friend Abdi. Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing that. Abdi was a mentor of mine, and his absence is very keenly felt, especially in our Black community, because he was supportive of many different organizations. Alors, un grand merci à nos leaders communautaires sortants du Plio pour votre dévouement exceptionnel au fil des ans. Your structural leadership has laid the trails that we continue to follow today.
And thank you so much for paying tribute to Abdi as well. I think certainly when we were talking about him on the show, it's just something that rings true today. People who were bringing up memories of him were talking about the agency that he gave to them, inviting people, volunteers into a pizza party and then leaving, like just saying, figure it out. Let me know what solutions you guys come up with, and allowing people to come up with solutions and feeling that power themselves. And that's a lot of what I think certainly the ambassadors who we're talking about today, and what a lot of these organizations do on a regular basis. It's not just helping other people, it's also teaching people how to find their way in Ottawa. So I know the city is going to miss Abdi a lot. They already do. To officially close the launch program and issue our collective charge for the week ahead, it is our distinct pleasure to welcome back to the podium the woman leading OLIP into its next exciting chapter. Please join us in giving a warm welcome to OLIP Executive Director, Magdalene Khman.
Oh, what a wonderful morning. Thank you, Alan and Sarah, for being such phenomenal MCs. I've had the pleasure over the years to be here as well, and for the steady contributions you have made to OLIP over the last few years. Let us give a huge round of applause to Sarah and Alan. Thank you. On behalf of OLIP, I want to thank each and every person who is present here today at this 2026 Welcoming Ottawa Week launch event, as well as to those who are joining us virtually. I also want to thank everyone who has contributed towards WOW over the last 12 years. Let's give a hand to them. I want us to take a brief moment to tap into the collective energy of this room. Let us ground ourselves first as human beings, sharing a single space with an equal sense of purpose, putting aside whatever titles, positions, or privileges we may or may not have. For just a second, I want you sitting here to feel your own energy in the space and the energy of the people around you as being beautifully human. Like several speakers have alluded today, sometimes it's not about the big things we are doing. Sometimes it's us feeling inside of us and having the deep desire to connect to another human being, to create a welcoming feeling. I would like to thank Mayor Sutcliffe, who has left, to our federal partners at IRCC, who are represented here today by three wonderful people. Maxine, thank you for being here. Monica, thank you for being here. Benjamin, thank you for being here. Having both municipal leadership and our federal champions together here, and who have been coming year after year, tells something very important, that welcoming newcomers is a deeply shared civic and national priority. Would you agree with me? Let's give a hand out to them. To our newly named 2026 WOW Ambassadors, congratulations. I am so happy and so honored to have met you guys during the shooting of your photos, to hear your stories, and to know that your kindness, your genuine warmth represents the absolute best of our city. While we are formally celebrating 5 outstanding people on the stage today, let us, as other speakers have said, remember there are countless everyday residents playing that exact role generously and consistently across our city. As we look at the incredible mosaic of leadership in this room, the Lassie agencies, the diplomatic community, many of you who are heads of your organizations or hold important leadership roles, it calls on us to remember that the history of our capital city is an evolving narrative that we write together. But we cannot write an honest narrative without confronting the world around us. We are currently facing incredibly complex, painful global climate. Every single day, international crises are creating intense drama and trauma and daunting, unpredictable immigration challenges for human beings fleeing conflict, climate devastation, and persecution. Just 2 days ago, on June 20th, we marked World Refugee Day, a solemn reminder of the historic global displacement numbers and our profound legal and moral obligation to protect human dignity. And yesterday, on June 21st, we marked National Indigenous Peoples Day. As a partnership, as a collective dedicated to welcoming people to this land, we must continually ground our work in an active commitment to truth, reconciliation, and deep relationship building with the Algonquin and Nishabel people who have stewarded this territory since time immemorial. True belonging for newcomers cannot be decoupled from justice for the indigenous communities. Closer home, our settlement sector is facing its own headwinds with difficult funding cuts. Our organizations are being forced to rapidly reorganize, redesign, and protect essential programs and services on the fly. We must be clear. In Ottawa, the Lassie agencies, the Lassie groups, the Lassie group is working really hard to be absolutely clear that newcomers are not going to stay without servicing and programming. Knowing the irreplaceable importance of our work is building a safe, welcoming community, and we will press forward with fierce determination to ensure that services are in place. And I want to explicitly thank IRCC for the foundational vision for creating and funding local immigration partnerships across Canada. OLIP, this one here, is one of over 100 across the country. And it's a very important framework because what it does, it is fundamentally transforming our sector by shifting us away from siloed efforts and bringing us together, not just for one activity, but for several other things under a unified community-wide infrastructure. When I look at my own, all the stories I have heard today, Abby and Elami, thank you for sharing your story, the WOW Ambassadors. I reflect on my own, having arrived in Ottawa in 2023. This month, I celebrated 23 years in calling this city my second home. Like most newcomers, I too face all the familiar challenges, hurdles of settling into a new environment, navigating employment barriers, and trying to raise a family in a completely unfamiliar place. During these quiet moments, I wondered, would I ever be able to call Ottawa my home? Would I ever be able to feel as loved as I was, as appreciated as I was, as connected as I was to my home country? Would I be able to feel this at all in this new city? Today, after 23 years, I do. But it didn't happen by accident. It happened because of amazing human beings. People like Jean Christie, who offered me a home without me paying $1 for 1 year. She was an ambassador last year. It happened because of people like Dominique Denery, who's sitting right here and who offered me my first gig of employment without ever asking to see a certificate, a qualification. She trusted her gut and she trusted that I was going to be able to deliver. It happened because there was organizations like World Skills and Immigrant Women's Services and a ton of people who wrapped themselves around me. And because they gave so much, I decided to give back so much to Ottawa. It was a conscious decision I made to serve the Ottawa newcomer community. And so when I hear all of the stories today, I want you to know that it takes all of us to lift each other up. It takes many hands to build a community. And I want you today to pledge your own to doing this for Ottawa. Moving forward, I want to just talk very briefly about OLIP's strategic vision. Some of you don't know what OLIP is all about. And if you want to know more, send me a message. Let's meet for coffee or lunch. I'm going to be having lots of sessions trying to explain what we want to do in Ottawa. So having stepped into the privilege of leading Ottawa just over 6 months ago, I am deeply humbled by the overwhelming wave of support from institutions and grassroots leaders alike. The message is loud and clear from everything I'm hearing from everybody. We all want to make Ottawa
a more welcoming city for newcomers, refugees, everyone who is moving into our space. We all want to do that. But individual hospitality is just a beautiful spark. To keep everyone warm, we must build a systemic structural fire to sustain an Ottawa where newcomers are welcomed in every single way. We are moving forward with 3 vital strategic initiatives I want to share here. First of all, we are actively building a tightly woven partnership council across the entirety of Ottawa. If you are not yet part of the partnership council, I invite you to connect with me because we have to do it together. It's not a one-person team. Secondly, I want us to focus on a strategy grounded in the local realities of Ottawa. How do we know that Ottawa is a welcoming city? Anyone knows for sure? Put up your hand if you know for sure that Ottawa is a welcoming city. You know? You know for sure? How do you know? And so one of the priorities that we are going to be building out with OLIP in the coming year is working to develop a research network with the Carleton University, Ottawa U, and several other local researchers who are interested in joining us. And you know what I want to mention to you? Pathways to Prosperity have developed 19 indicators to show what a welcoming community is. And I believe in evidence-based research, and we are going to be undertaking research in Ottawa to find out whether our city is a welcoming city. Thirdly, we want to significantly address the systemic barriers and structural inequities by building on the transformative work that Equity Ottawa has been leading. We want to scale up these equity-informed practices to ensure that structural anti-racism oppression move towards inclusion to standard operating procedures across all municipal sectors and across all organizations. Do you think these are 3 good priorities? Good. So lastly, when we align these strategies, what we want is the blueprint of a welcoming community. And we want everyone who come in to feel it, not to be sent to 100 places to find out whether you are welcomed or not. We want a society that when I come in, the things are in place. I understand I'm being welcomed in every single place that I go to. So 4 things we are looking for. We want public spaces that are accessible, that are safe, and that are genuinely inclusive for all cultures. Secondly, we want civic and political platforms where diverse voices actively shape local policy. CBC. We want to get on CBC more. We want to be on the national news. We want to hear newcomer stories more and the realities that they're facing. We want an economy that matches newcomers' skills and genuinely values global experience. We want to stop hearing the nonsense about they were not qualified, they don't have the experience, blah, 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 blah. No, they're coming in with skills. We want employers, service organizations, everyone to tap in, look deeply to remove the barrier so that the newcomer who's coming in is not waiting for 5, 10, 15 years for them to land a job. We want health, education, social services to be intentionally designed to respond to immediate everyday realities of those who are arriving on our doorstep. With funding cuts, it's challenging, we understand. But Ottawa, we are strong. We are resilient. We are going to work together to continue moving people along so that tomorrow they will be saying, we made it because we had a welcoming community at the back of us. So lastly, my call to action and some acknowledgements. My call to action to each of you this morning is to carry the grit, the focus, the immense energy that you feel in this room back to your respective sectors. Over the next 9 days, we'll be having over 50 events across Ottawa. Don't sit at home. We don't build community sitting behind our laptops. We build community when we go to the places where the people are and we engage in conversation and real dialogue with them. Take your time. Go find out where these activities are and go to at least one activity. This event that you see here today took a lot of effort, a lot of energy. And I want to thank some very special people. So first of all, I want to start specifically to recognize Nyamalola Kambanji, who we call her the Queen of Wow. Nyamalola, where are you? All right, next, I think she's coming. For my team at OLIP, Mo, Yusra, and Jean-Pierre, can you guys come up? I just want to say thank you to, it's only 4 of us at the Secretariat, and I don't know how we do all the things that we do. Come up just for people to know who you are. Yes, yes. Yeah. All right, while we're waiting for Naimalola to get here, I also want to draw your attention to the magnificent volunteers that we have had here today. Volunteers, please stand up. Let's give a big hand of acknowledgement to them. All of our volunteers, thank you. And the volunteers who are also managing our social media. Come up, come up, come up. Stand, if you're a volunteer, I'm sorry, stand, come up, come up. The decorations that you saw on the table, last night we were here late, and the young woman who has been working, I don't know whether she's still here, Hoda, her company, Elegant Touch, spends so much time creating this welcoming environment for you. Let's give them a hand of applause. And also to Mosaic Center for the amazing breakfast that you had today. Big hand of applause for them. Come on, let's give it up. I want to tell you, this year now, we have already dated Wow 2027. And you can put it in your calendar because Wow 2027 will be on June 21 next year. All right, so get it in there. And finally, take a moment to complete the WOW evaluation. This is very important to us because your feedback will help us improve for next year. There are copies on your table, or there's also the QR code that you can just sign in. So let's move into this week with open minds, open doors, and a fierce determination to build the welcoming community that we want. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Sarah Onyango, je suis traductrice pendant la journée, mais le reste du temps, je suis animatrice et réalisatrice à la télévision Rogers, qui est ici, en fait, en train de capter cet événement. Ça fait depuis 2018 que je suis coprésidente de la semaine d'accueil à Ottawa et ça fait une trentaine d'années que j'évolue dans le milieu communautaire ici à Ottawa et je viens du Kenya.
Alors bonjour, mon nom c'est Saint-Phare Désir, je suis retraité, ancien directeur général du CESOC et ancien membre du secrétariat de OLIP. J'ai eu le privilège de participer à la création de OLIP et à l'époque j'étais coordonnateur des réseaux de soutien à l'immigration francophone pour la région de l'Est. Je suis haïtien d'origine et puis citoyen du monde. Je voyageais un peu partout à l'international pour travailler pour certains organismes.
Alors, j'ai une question un peu pour vous deux, on va aller très vite puisqu'on sent que vous êtes tellement sollicités, vous deux. Alors, la semaine d'accueil à Ottawa, c'est officiel, elle a été lancée. Et pourquoi c'était si vraiment important de relier les célébrations de cette année au 200e anniversaire d'Ottawa?
C'est en fait pour bien rappeler aux gens que Bytown, ce qu'on appelait Bytown, qui est aujourd'hui Ottawa, a toujours été une terre d'accueil pour plusieurs vagues d'immigration et que les seuls habitants originels de ce territoire, ce sont les Autochtones. Et c'est très bien que nous ayons ouvert l'événement avec l'aînée Claudette Commanda qui, elle, a rappelé à l'auditoire aujourd'hui que ce sont les Anishinabés algonquins qui ont accueilli les premiers colons et puis les vagues qui sont venues par après. Et c'est d'autant plus important qu'aujourd'hui, il y a plusieurs personnes qui ont mentionné la vague anti-immigration qui souffle sur notre pays. Des gens qui oublient qu'eux-mêmes, ils sont des descendants d'immigrants irlandais, écossais, allemands, italiens, etc. Et qui parlent de « il y a trop d'immigrants ici, etc. etc. » Quand vous êtes arrivés, on vous a accueillis. Alors pourquoi est-ce qu'aujourd'hui, vous ne voyez plus la valeur de l'immigration? Alors aujourd'hui, c'est vraiment rappeler l'apport des nouveaux arrivants et des immigrants à la région de la capitale nationale et de rappeler à quel point il est très important de reconnaître ce potentiel-là et d'appuyer tous ces gens-là qui veulent refaire leur vie ici.
À vous, Monsieur Safa.
Alors, je pense que quand on parle de 200 ans d'Ottawa, ça veut dire 200 ans d'immigration. Parce que Ottawa a existé avant l'arrivée des nouveaux arrivants à Ottawa, puisque, comme ma collègue vient de dire, les Autochtones étaient déjà sur cette terre. Ils ont occupé la terre, ils ont reçu ceux qui sont arrivés après eux avec les bras ouverts. Ils les ont nourris, logés. Et je pense que c'est extrêmement important de rappeler que c'est 200 ans d'immigration. C'est pour ça que le WOW a choisi de fêter les 200 ans d'immigration à Ottawa. Donc je pense que c'est un symbole extrêmement important. Et j'ajouterais quelque chose d'autre que je dis souvent à mes amis à Ottawa et à ceux qui sont dans la politique que je rencontre. Ottawa, pour moi, c'est à peu près 4 quartiers de Shanghai. Si on veut vraiment être un pays digne de ce nom, éviter que Donald Trump nous appelle le 51e État, il faut bâtir ce pays. Le pays est à bâtir. 40 millions d'habitants, ce n'est pas encore une population. Pour moi, Ottawa a plus de potentiel que 40 millions d'habitants.
Waouh, c'est vraiment bien dit. Et justement par là, pour terminer, pour conclure cette émission, cette interview, là où je me pose vraiment des questions, c'est sur les immigrants. Lorsqu'on arrive ici, c'est vrai que parfois on peut avoir cette crise identitaire, crise culturelle, ainsi de suite. Alors, c'est vrai qu'une ville ne se construit pas aussi simplement que dans les infrastructures, mais aussi dans le côté humain. Alors aujourd'hui, vous avez été décerné de ce très beau trophée d'ambassadeur aussi. Alors, dites-nous déjà votre impression déjà, premièrement. Je vois que même Madame Sarah vous regarde avec fierté. Alors, dites-nous vos impressions par rapport au trophée que vous avez eu. C'est à vous.
Je pense que le trophée que j'ai eu, ça représente 19 ans de travail dans la communauté, notamment au CESOC, d'abord comme coordonnateur du réseau de soutien à l'immigration francophone pour l'Est de l'Ontario et ensuite comme directeur du CESOC depuis 2012. Pour moi, ce que ce trophée représente aussi, c'était quand je suis revenu au Canada en 2007, je me disais qu'il fallait absolument, après mon parcours un peu partout dans le monde, en Afrique, il fallait absolument qu'on essaye de briser la division qui existe entre francophones et anglophones. Donc c'est pour ça que j'ai été parmi les premières personnes qui ont vu naître OLIP, parce que je voulais tendre la main aux anglophones pour que nous puissions vraiment créer une ville accueillante.
À vous aussi.
C'était quoi encore la question?
Vous êtes maîtresse de cérémonie. Hein, vous avez depuis 2014 à peu près, 2018, vous êtes en train de piloter en fait cette organisation. Alors dites-nous aujourd'hui le fait de remettre aussi des trophées d'ambassadeurs pour que les personnes en fait qui puissent s'identifier, ils peuvent se dire ah voilà, on a des gens comme nous qui nous ressemblent et qui réussissent et voilà le chemin. Alors voilà.
Ben, en tant que personnalité des médias, moi je comprends très bien combien l'image de l'immigration, il faut que ce soit la réussite, l'image. Oui, il y a des frustrations, il y a des hauts débats, etc. Mais c'est très important de vraiment mettre en valeur les réussites. Et ce que Alan Neal, mon co-animateur, n'a pas dit, c'est qu'à CBC, la radio anglaise de Radio-Canada, il présente des portraits, des entrevues des ambassadeurs qui ont reçu des prix aujourd'hui pour que le grand public les connaisse et aussi pour rappeler au grand public que même les immigrants eux-mêmes aident d'autres immigrants dans leur intégration et que, en fait, cette identité canadienne, parce qu'on se pose toujours la question, c'est quoi un Canadien, une Canadienne? Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire? C'est quoi l'identité?
C'est vrai ça. Hein?
L'identité canadienne, c'est l'accueil, c'est l'acceptation, c'est l'entraide, c'est la solidarité.
L'humilité. C'est
l'humilité surtout par rapport à nos cousins américains. C'est aussi c'est la compassion, c'est la résilience, vraiment. Pour vivre ici, tous ces hivers-là, il faut beaucoup de résilience, physique. Mais pour réussir en Amérique du Nord, il faut beaucoup de résilience psychologique, spirituelle et tout ça. Et on ne peut pas faire ça tout seul. Ça se fait en communauté. Et c'est ce que j'adore de cet événement et c'est pourquoi je continue à m'associer à cette initiative.
En tout cas, merci vous deux, je vous remercie parce que je sais qu'il y a beaucoup de gens qui sont en train de vous voir, qui sont en train de vous chercher. Merci et on se verra encore pour une prochaine fois. Voilà, nous sommes de retour sur le plateau, nous sommes très contents et on va aller très rapidement puisque maintenant on est presque arrivé à la fin et les gens sont pressés et on dit félicitations à une certaine personne qui est ici sur le plateau dont il ira chercher la graduation avec son fils. En tout cas, félicitations à vous. Voilà, alors pour le commun des mortels, on va vous laisser vous présenter tout d'abord. Comme on l'a dit tout à l'heure, vous présenter en anglais, et en français et en anglais. Comme ça, on va aller comme ça parce que c'est une émission aujourd'hui qui est un peu bilingue. Donc voilà, on va faire comme ça. Alors, merci. On va aller à vous, madame. Présentez-vous pour le commun des mortels qui vous suit actuellement.
Bonjour. Merci pour cette invitation. Je m'appelle Hala Ben Hussein et je suis Employment Navigator, navigatrice en emploi aujourd'hui à YMCA. Je suis aussi hypnothérapeute, sound healer et coach life. So, hello everyone. My name is Hala Ben Hussein and I am an employment navigator at YMCA. I am the Ambassador of the Week of Ottawa this year, 2026. And I'm also a hypnotherapist, sound healer and coach life. Yeah. This is it.
Il faut allumer, voilà. Ouais, allez-y.
Claudette Robinson, je suis coordonnateur du développement communautaire à la ville d'Ottawa, également en tant qu'ancien journaliste du sport. Hello everyone, my name is Javier Claudette Robinson, a community development coordinator with the city of Ottawa, formerly a sports reporter, and excited to be here. Merci pour l'invitation. Thank you.
Alors, très bien, très bonne présentation. Maintenant, on a vu que on va aller directement droit au but. On a vu que vous avez décroché ce trophée aujourd'hui. Alors, quel est votre sentiment aujourd'hui par rapport à ce trophée que vous pouvez nous montrer à la caméra? Voilà, waouh, c'est bien, super. C'est un trophée, voilà, comme on l'a dit tout à l'heure, un trophée. Les ambassadeurs, ça nous permet au moins de valider au moins tout ce qui est humain, ok? Et toutes ces personnes immigrants qui peuvent se référer à des personnes, ils peuvent se référer à vous aujourd'hui. En tout cas, félicitations si j'avais des... voilà, j'ai des applaudissements. Alors, dites-nous votre sentiment.
Merci beaucoup. Alors, le premier sentiment, c'est de la fierté d'appartenir à une ville, à un pays. Je suis très heureuse d'avoir mon travail qui vient du cœur être rewarded today et reconnaissable. Parce que aujourd'hui, je suis Employment Navigator, mais avant, j'étais spécialiste de référencement et d'intégration des nouveaux arrivants à Ottawa. Et donc, je donnais les conseils et je coachais et j'orientais les nouveaux arrivants dans toutes les ressources nécessaires dont ils ont besoin, de les aider à ce qu'ils ressentent que Ottawa, c'est leur maison. My mission was to help newcomers to feel that Ottawa is like their new home, new country, and they are belonging. This is what my mission, and I'm very proud to see that it's recognized at a point, and makes sense. And let's help people to just settle down in this country, beautiful land, and feel it, like I said, like a home, a new home, and feeling belonging to that land. Thank you. Merci.
Merci. Alors vous, de votre poste, vous représentez aussi la ville d'Ottawa. Dites-nous un peu aujourd'hui, quand vous voyez la semaine d'accueil à Ottawa, il y a eu pas mal de personnes qui sont venues présenter aujourd'hui ce lancement. Vous êtes aussi un partenaire. Qu'est-ce que vous pouvez dire par rapport, quel est le message vraiment porteur pour cette semaine wow, comme on dit? À vous.
Bon, j'ai quand même deux éléments que j'aimerais souligner. D'abord, cet événement me donne toujours de très beaux souvenirs. J'étais nouvellement arrivé au Canada en 2011. Ça faisait 3 mois seulement quand j'étais au pays que je suis invité à cet événement. Et quand j'avais obtenu mon tout premier emploi, je me sentais vraiment, avec tout le réseautage puis la bienveillance que je ressentais pendant l'événement, que je dis, waouh, c'est quelque chose d'extraordinaire. Les sentiments d'appartenance que j'ai ressentis depuis le tout début à mon arrivée au pays. Donc, 15 ans plus tard, maintenant en tant que ville, organisme partenaire, nous, on s'implique dans plusieurs événements. Évidemment, on est la ville où on a aussi, en tant que partenaire aussi dans le partenariat d'immigration locale d'Ottawa, PLIO, OLIP en anglais. Et puis surtout, particulièrement, Santé publique d'Ottawa organisera un événement le 26 juin. Ça sera dans le sud-est de la ville, dans le quartier Hetherington. Et puis également un partenariat avec la bibliothèque publique. On organise, et puis également Santé publique, on organise 4 événements dans 3 bibliothèques publiques de demain jusqu'au 27 juin, justement pour souligner et puis réitérer que les bibliothèques, les espaces publics sont toujours ouverts, disponibles, sont les bienvenus pour que les résidents nouvellement arrivés en ville puissent en profiter. Maintenant, in English, I was very new in Canada in 2011, only 3 months when I first attended this event. And the warmth that I felt at this event, I really felt that this would be home. And how I feel it, I hope that, and this is what encouraged me to the work that I do every single day, to make sure that doesn't matter how long you've been in this country, that you feel the same way I feel 15 years later. Now, as a city employer, we'll be hosting 4 events with Ottawa Public Library, and Ottawa Public Health. 4 events and 3 different public libraries during the course of the week, from June the 23rd all the way to June the 27th. And we also have a massive event organized in the southeast part of the city, in the Hetherington neighborhood, hosted by Ottawa Public Health. So that's in a nutshell some of the activities organized by the city of Ottawa, as well as the Ottawa Public Library. Thank you.
Merci, je vais vous laisser. En tout cas, je peux dire gracias, thank you very much, shukran katir. Voilà, j'essaie de parler un peu toutes les langues. Merci à vous et on vous dit encore bon vent, plein de bonnes chances. Barakallahu fik, je crois c'est ça. Je crois j'ai essayé.
Bravo.
Voilà.
Merci, shukran.
Merci, shukran. Voilà, voilà.
Moi, je suis pas le seul à...
radio Maweja FM. Pour rien manquer, abonnez-vous maintenant.
Voilà, nous sommes très contents de revenir ici sur notre plateau. Nous avons une autre structure qui est ici, qui va se présenter et qui va nous dire un peu de quoi il s'agit. Merci en tout cas d'être ici sur la radio Maweja FM et sur cette édition spéciale, la semaine d'accueil d'Ottawa. Bonjour madame, présentez-vous pour le commun des mortels. Vous vous présentez et puis vous dites un peu votre structure. La caméra est juste en face de vous avec le micro. À vous.
Je suis Danielle Mac, nouvelle arrivante accueillie par le centre YMCA. Bon, le centre YMCA m'a permis d'avoir un début assez stable dans la ville d'Ottawa en tant que nouvelle arrivante, sans ressources, sans référence. Oui, le YMCA est un organisme qui regorge beaucoup de ressources, d'opportunités, oui, pour l'intégration et l'insertion des nouveaux arrivants, tant sur le marché de l'emploi que dans la vie sociale. Oui, c'est un peu de ça qu'il s'agit.
Alors, vous avez été contente de la semaine d'accueil d'Ottawa qui est organisée par le partenariat local immigration d'Ottawa. Comment vous avez trouvé cette organisation aujourd'hui?
Cette organisation était très belle, belle décoration, les invités étaient tous magnifiques et les lauréats, les lauréats étaient aussi magnifiques dans leur tenue et avec leur prix. C'est un événement à refaire. Certainement, c'est un événement qui se fait déjà depuis. Ça devrait continuer et ces personnes qui travaillent dans l'ombre devraient être reconnues à leur juste valeur pour les tâches qu'ils accomplissent dans l'ombre, oui.
Alors merci en tout cas d'être passé. Merci, vous avez vu que c'était pas si compliqué, c'était simple. Hein, vous avez vu, donc merci en tout cas d'être venu. C'est gentil et puis voilà. Ok, donc voilà, nous sommes pratiquement presque.
Maweja FM, pour rien manquer, abonnez-vous maintenant.
Voilà, bonjour, je suis très content encore de vous revoir encore une fois de plus sur notre plateau. Voilà, là nous sommes pratiquement presque à la fin et j'ai dû courir un peu pour embêter un peu certaines personnes encore à la fin pour qu'ils puissent nous dire le mot de la fin. En tout cas, je vous dis merci pour le temps que vous nous donnez. Alors, pour le commun des mortels, on va refaire une présentation. Présentez-vous, donc on commence, on ne sait pas par qui on commence. Voilà. Merci.
Alors, d'accord, je vais commencer. Mon nom est Dominique Denery, je suis présidente du partenariat local d'immigration d'Ottawa.
Hi everyone, my name is Susana Perez. I'm part of a food delivery community group. I'm a donor relations representative.
Merci. Alors, on a vu un peu aujourd'hui comment ça s'est passé. Ça s'est vraiment très bien passé. Pour moi, pour ma part, en tout cas, c'est la première fois. J'ai assisté à de la qualité. C'était vraiment bien. Alors, vos impressions, on va aller quand même par rapport à vous, hein, vos impressions, et puis on terminera par vous. Voilà. Alors, vos impressions par rapport à aujourd'hui, qu'est-ce que vous avez pensé de cette cérémonie, de ce lancement aujourd'hui, qui était officiellement le 22 juin 2026. À vous.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's my first time here. It's my first event as a part of a food deliver, and I found it very wonderful. All of the people that are here that are looking to help to build a better Ottawa. I'm a newcomer myself, so I find it very useful to be part of a community like this. Everything was very, very nice since the beginning, and yeah, at the end, the part of being part of a community like this is amazing.
D'accord. Ben, on va à vous, voilà, en français et en anglais. Oui, allez-y.
Ok, parfait. Alors moi, ce qui m'a le plus touchée, c'est ma 4e année. Ben, je suis venue avant, mais comme présidente, c'est le fait qu'il y avait toute une génération montante qui continue le travail. Donc, la directrice exécutive du PLIO, Partenariat local d'immigration d'Ottawa, parlait du fait que je lui avais donné sa première occasion d'emploi quand elle est arrivée il y a 23 ans. Mais elle a donné aussi des occasions à une jeune femme qui m'a approchée et qui a dit, bon ben, c'est vous la Dominique de Magdalene. Mais elle va dire ça aux autres générations. Elle est en train d'aider les plus jeunes. Donc, l'accueil, c'est pas simplement quelque chose de théorique. C'est vraiment dans la pratique que quelqu'un fait une différence dans la vie de quelqu'un qui fait dans une autre vie, et c'est comme ça qu'on va créer la communauté qu'on cherche à avoir ici à Ottawa.
Voilà, en anglais. Ne vous inquiétez pas. Oui.
Okay, so I was saying that what touched me today was the fact that there was a young woman who ran up to me and says, "Oh, so you're Magdalene's Dominique." And for her, it meant that the story that Magdalene, who's the executive director of OLIP, had told her about being welcomed when she first came here 23 years ago. Magdalene tells the story, and then this young woman was saying that she was doing the same for people coming in today. So it's wonderful to see that a quarter century later, you still have people remembering the stories of their welcoming, wanting to make others feel welcome in Ottawa. And that's how we're going to create a welcoming community.
Radio Maweja FM. Pour rien manquer, abonnez-vous maintenant.
Voilà, nous sommes de retour sur notre plateau. Comme je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, c'est pratiquement la fin, mais il a fallu quand même prendre la directrice exécutive d'ici, de OLIP. C'est vraiment important qu'on puisse la voir vraiment. Alors pour cela, comme on a un public francophone, on va faire les deux. On va parler français et anglais. Ça va nous permettre d'être un peu encore toujours dans ce système bilingue, puisque c'est ça aussi, ça représente ça. C'est la richesse d'Ottawa aussi, et c'est très important. Alors, pour le commun des mortels, pouvez-vous vous présenter, vous deux? Et puis, voilà, comme ça, après, on va commencer par elle. Donc, on commence par elle, elle peut se présenter, voilà.
Magdalene Khman, and I am the Executive Director for the Ottawa Local Immigration Partnership, which we also call OLIP.
And my name is Mo Kasraoui, and I'm responsible of partner relationships.
Merci, Monsieur Kasraoui, vous étiez avec nous il n'y a pas très longtemps, c'est super. Alors, aujourd'hui, il y a eu ce lancement. Comment vous pensez de ce lancement officiel de la semaine d'accueil d'Ottawa? Comment ça s'est passé pour vous et pour Madame?
That was amazing. We had almost 200 people in the space, and all of them are representing leadership at various levels, people from our community, our WOW ambassadors, volunteers. And I think the key message here from all the speakers is just how important it is for people to feel welcomed in the community. And welcoming, it's not about big strategic actions, it's the creating connections, being with people. And the WOW ambassador stories were the most interesting and highlighted our event this morning because it showcased how 5 out of 300 people nominations were chosen because of the way in which they supported newcomers coming into Ottawa. And all that they did, which make their stories interesting, it was very simple acts of kindness, like bringing food, bringing clothing, supporting with language classes, helping improve a newcomer's opportunity to access for employment. We heard the story this morning of Reverend Joseph, who helped one young man who was able now to open his business and hire 10 more immigrants to work for him. This is the small, important strategies that regular residents can do to make others feel welcome in the community.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I wanna know tes impressions aujourd'hui aussi.
En français, en anglais?
Français et anglais. Tu feras des deux.
Je ferai les deux.
Ouais, super.
He's also asking me about my impressions about the day in both languages. C'était vraiment, pour moi, c'était la première fois. C'était ma première année. Et c'était vraiment très émouvant de voir comment les différents leaders du secteur se sont réunis aujourd'hui pour travailler ensemble envers ces objectifs communs. It was a very inspiring for me to see how many different profiles we had in the room, from leaders to frontline staff to the diplomatic community. It was very motivating to see everyone putting their titles aside, as our executive director was saying, how everyone put their titles aside and we are all together in this today. So it was very touching.
Yeah, I also want to add another point, if you permit me, to reflect on the story of Abhijit, who was one of our distinguished speakers and whose mission now is providing hot meals, nutritious meals to children in Ottawa, in the school system, as well as those who are in transitional housing. And every month, his organization, Nutrition Blocks, they provide 10,000 meals. I think it was a bit staggering for me to even understand how 1 out of every 4 children in Ottawa are food insecure. But here he is as a newcomer to Ottawa 8 years ago, who has been able to develop an amazing organization and infrastructure to be able to support those 1 out of 4 children by providing these hot meals. And if someone like Abhijit could do that as a newcomer, it makes me wonder how much more all of us can collectively do to make Ottawa a welcoming community.
Elle a posé une question tout à l'heure. Elle a dit que il était très important que les radios comme CBC travaillent en collaboration pour encore créer une très bonne image des immigrants et surtout... alors, qu'est-ce que vous voulez dire par là? Ce serait intéressant de comprendre.
I believe that it's really important for mainstream media to have a better understanding of immigration policy, but more importantly, the lived experiences of immigrants and refugees in Ottawa and in Canada as a whole. There are many misunderstandings about the immigration journey. For example, some people feel that immigrants are taking away their jobs. And this creates a tension in society that is not necessary, because Canada as a whole needs immigration to be able to thrive in the future, especially. The Canadian population now is declining. There are certainly just not enough children being born every year to be able to keep the immigration, to be able to keep the population growing in a way that as people retire, you have enough new people coming into the system. So because of that huge challenge in Canada, immigrants make up for what Canadian society cannot do. And so if we have less immigrants coming in, the challenge in a few years is that we will not have a workforce to replace those who are going out. So that's one of the myths around immigration, is that immigrants are coming here to take jobs. That's not true. The second big thing that I want us to think about, it's the stories of immigrant contributions. You heard today the stories of Abhijit. We heard from Elamin, who came from Somali, and he today is a CBC radio host, and he's making a huge contribution over the airwaves in terms of people understanding a little bit more about cultural identity, about cultural integration, and what that means for somebody like him who came here as a child and who had to grow his own career here. And I think as these stories are shared of the contributions that immigrants are making, we will inspire newcomers to take on the journey with courage, knowing that others have done it and they can do it. And the other part of the problem it will solve is help ordinary Canadians, normal people, regular folks, to just simply understand that immigrants are making a significant contribution to the development and continuity of Ottawa.
Thank you very much. Vraiment, j'ai vraiment apprécié vraiment toutes ces réponses. Alors, merci en tout cas d'être venu. Peut-être vous avez un mot de la fin, un mot pour clôturer, un mot de clôture. Alors,
my closing word is for us to think very deeply as we move around our communities and we meet people, is to see the human dignity, respect for others, and our own energy in terms of how we welcome another. People can feel when they're welcomed or when they're not welcomed. And so as we move in the public space, let us just take note of how we are feeling and ask ourselves, do I, as a person, first of all, generate a feeling of welcoming to others that can be felt?
Radio Maweja FM. Radio Maweja FM. Pour rien manquer, abonnez-vous maintenant.